rule that the FIA has. I don't know if you're familiar with it because we're doing our research. This stuff is very
Oh yeah,
technical.
Article 11.
You're supposed to have symmetrical um with the braking and everything. It's symmetrical, which means whatever you put on the front two, it has to go to the back two.
Absolutely.
But whatever this thing that Newey made, this valve, it does it asymmetrically so that each tire has a different pressurization, and it helps for it helps to avoid things like understeer and ultimately tire degradation because it's asymmetric balance. I don't know how they were able to do the loophole because to me it sounds like if it was causing asymmetric break, that's actually breaking the rule. But they're saying that maybe it wasn't breaking the rule because it was a loophole. But I'm trying to wonder how could there be ambiguity? Do you have an idea? If not, we can move on. We can talk about that in a future session on
Yeah,
how it's even a loophole. How is it not straight out cheating? Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Basically, what they said was that when it comes to like what you were talking about is actually in Article 11 of FIA rules. It said the brake system must
yeah,
be designed so that within each circuit, the force applied to the brake pads are of the same magnitude on both
yeah,
brake
yeah,
discs. So basically, what they're saying is that they took advantage of a loophole that is not outright cheating. The reason being that it says that the engineers of each of those teams interpret those laws differently from the way the layman interprets them. And then we have to look at context too, really. So that's what they're saying, that this is not in black and white, and
yeah. I agree with you, but go ahead, go ahead. No, continue. Going to
but they
continue.
said
Yeah,
that this particular device that gives a little bit of advantage in cornering basically had been done away with, and teams had been told not to use it so that it doesn't offer any kind of advantage. But to say that this was the reason for Red Bull's dominance in the first half of the season, I think is a little bit far-fetched, really.
yeah. But hold
You
on.
have
Can
to,
I say something though? But then that
yeah,
means that they were cheating. It wasn't just about interpretation. If it had been done away with, you get my point. And we still
okay,
haven't answered the ambiguity. But I think this goes beyond everybody's head. This is technical stuff. I agree with what you said. Um,
okay,
it's not the only reason for Red Bull's dominance, but you can continue and then I'll jump in. Okay.
okay. So Red Bull has not officially confirmed or denied. However, the team members, including I think the head of their engineering team or mechanic, Callum Nicholas, has rejected allegations. He attributed the recent performance to the improvement of their team, which is not really addressing the issue from a technical standpoint or debunking the fact that they are cheated. So it looks like a slight advantage for Red Bull. But if that is
Yeah.
now seen as a reason why they dominated, is now, it's open to investigation. I'm sure
Yeah.
as the days go by, I'm sure there'll be an investigation because
Okay,
they
but
can't,
here's the thing.
yeah,
In Miami, they took it out. We didn't hear about that. And
yeah,
that's when
yeah.
Verstappen started complaining about balance. He
And I
started
noticed
complaining about
that
balance.
their performance started declining from Miami.
Mhm. Now, but what I want to say is that they've probably had this thing and it's been helping them. But it's very clear that number one, Red Bull has a lot more going on for it than just the asymmetric thing going on with the brake valve. They have probably the best driver in Formula One now, who on the simulator can make adaptations because actually in the last couple of races without the valve, Verstappen has been driving fantastically. He had a 10-place grid thing. He had pole position. They put him in 10th and he came third without the brake valve, which means they
Yes.
adapted, which shows you that the Red Bull team can adapt and do their car. They can change their car based on whatever the rules or whatever restrictions. Most likely due to the fact that they have a lot of money and a lot of good engineers, not just Newey. And they still have some of Newey's old because he hasn't gone to another team, so they're still
Of
using a
course,
lot
some
of
of
his
his
innovations.
mentees are still in Red
Yeah,
Bull.
because
Some
let
of
me
his
tell you the
mentees.
truth. If not for that grid penalty, Max Verstappen would have won by 10 seconds. And where was it? Spa. What was the last race?
Yeah,
Spa.
yeah, I think it was Spa. It was Spa, yeah.
Yeah. So it's very clear Red Bull has the fastest driver, and they still have a good developmental team. Now McLaren has caught up with them because there's a ceiling. There's a ceiling in F1 where once you're ahead, Red Bull has been ahead for 3 or 4 years. because of the regulations, they can't improve. So now other teams are catching them.
Okay,
You
okay,
understand what I'm
okay.
saying?
I understand
Yeah,
what you're
because what
saying.
happens is that there's no more room for growth for Red Bull. That's my theory. But we have to remember, because people say, "Oh, Red Bull car is no good." Verstappen came third from 10th place. The Red Bull car is still faster than Mercedes, and Mercedes is fast. The Red Bull car is still faster than Ferrari. And on
Yeah,
that weekend at that weekend on Spa, all indications was that the Red Bull car was faster than McLaren for that
yeah.
track. Because
Sure, sure, sure.
once again, that was an intermediate track with inter medium speed corners or a few low speed, but mostly high speed. And that's what Red Bull is still number one at, is on aerodynamics. They're still number one on that because that's their chassis and that's the basis of their
Of
thing
course,
is
of
is high
course,
speed.
of course.
Ferrari has a lot of downforce, and McLaren has the best overall balance. So we
Balance,
know
yes.
McLaren is the best overall car, but
And
but
the
I think people
fastest
are
car.
exaggerating. They're like, oh, people are exaggerating. They say that, oh, now that we took the thing out, Red Bull is rubbish. No, they were suffering from understeer. That's a balance problem, but they still have the best aerodynamics in the sport. And apparently they solved the balance problem by changing their downforce and putting it in a medium place. And because this guy is the best driver in the world, he's able to make up for any deficiencies in balance. People have
Yeah.
said it, and now I agree with it. Everybody on the paddock says that Verstappen brings a 2/10 of a second advantage over anyone, per lap. Yeah, let's continue, Falabi. What do you have to
Yeah,
say?
so
Yeah.
basically, why I'm a little bit doubtful is because of the rumor too that we had some time ago that his fellow driver was driving a performance inferior car.
Yeah.
There was that one too leaked into the into the
Yeah, and
media
also they gave
space
him they gave different cars to each driver,
to
totally
each
radically
driver.
different. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So, but giving your best driver the best chance to win by giving him a superior car, I don't think he's cheating really. Although
no, it's not cheating. No, no.
I also don't agree that the driver who is at a disadvantage should be given a less superior car. So, but I
Yeah,
feel the engineers in the team are supposed to look at FIA rules and see how there are fine margins. They have to see how they can take advantage of these rules without necessarily breaking those rules. And I feel it is only when it is investigated and it is seen as an advantage that you can begin to undermine the performance in the early part of this season. I think it's really unfair for them to be attributing that brake bias system to be responsible for their dominance in the first quarter of the season. Because you know how good their car is, you
yeah,
know
you're
how
right.
good it is
But here's the
aerodynamically,
thing.
and they have the
I
best
think with
driver,
the
like
different.
you
Are you on?
rightly
Are you
mentioned.
paused? Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Mustafa.
Yeah, yeah, I think you were paused. So the differences in the cars, I think they were experimenting because they were trying to find out new things about downforce and things like that, and on how to figure out how to cut back on tire degradation because of they can't be using that what you call it. They can't be using the
The brake bias system.
asymmetric thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's why they now took risks. So they kept what's his name Perez with the traditional car. Then they did some changes to the chassis of Verstappen. I think that's what that was really about.
Yeah.
But we can go to another thing in which the tire management. People say, oh, Verstappen is really good at distributing weight between the front and back. That might have been helped by the asymmetric thing, but it's become clear that that's his natural driving style anyway. It might have made it easier for him. So now it's just harder. He has to push himself harder now. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and I believe
Mhm.
sometimes when teams make tweaks to these cars, sometimes they look at the driving style of the driver
Yeah.
and they do minor tweaks. Maybe it can be the cockpit, it can be the seat. They do minor tweaks to suit the preferred driving style of the driver, which may not
Yeah. Yeah.
necessarily be
Yeah.
cheating.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they did some loopholes and they did some cheating, but here's the thing. I've followed Formula One for 20 years. Let me tell you, man, I've seen so many stories. People think that Lewis Hamilton and McLaren are saints. All of these teams, if we remember, Toto Wolff and his wife were taking information from the junior training program and using it for their team. You get my point? So I think that in Formula One, there's a level of cheating. I wouldn't call it, I would say it's like politics. it's not a sport for saints.
Exactly.
But what do they say in the
There's a
Bible?
permissible level for cheating. Permissible.
Yeah, it's everything. Even with me, if I go to work, I'll do an extra 10 minutes billing because that's human nature. But the problem is when it gets too bad, when we know that you have no skill. But I'm telling you, for Red Bull to dominate, they've won four titles with Vettel and three titles with Verstappen. That's seven. When
Yeah,
you win
that's
seven titles over a 15 to 20 year period, it means you have a good team. And we know that Adrian
absolutely.
nobody's looking. It's like your mom tells you don't take the egg from the pot, and there's 20 eggs in the stew. When nobody's looking, you take one. You understand what I'm
Exactly,
trying to say?
exactly.
So yeah, I think it's clear that. So yeah, so later on today you'll be with Lorato and Bearden,
Theodore,
hopefully, and you
at
guys
nine
can talk
o'clock,
more about this.
we want to preview the
Yeah, but also you
Netherlands
guys can.
Grand Prix, right? We're
Did you talk to
previewing
Bearden?
Netherlands.
Yeah,
Yeah, I spoke to him. He says
you talked to
nine.
Bearden.
I spoke with
Yes,
him. He says nine.
9. So,
Yeah.
so you'll preview Netherlands, and you can still talk a little bit more about the technical issue because there's going to be Formula One technical tonight. But the main focus is on Netherlands. I think Red Bull will still do well. I still have Verstappen coming second in Netherlands. I think he's going to come second. I think he's going to qualify first. But I think Piastri is going to win because Verstappen is good in qualifying. He qualified first last race, but he may not have the race pace. But the problem with Norris is that Norris doesn't start well, so that's a big issue.
Yeah. But I
And
think
okay, so
the team to beat is McLaren for constructors. But drivers, Red Bull are still in pole, really.
yeah. Okay, so thank you very much. We're the dynamic duo, the hardest workers in Formula One. Falabi and Mustafa. We're working our butts off. Thank you for supporting our channel. We're getting good feedback from fans and everything. Like, subscribe, but more importantly, continue watching our shows. Thank you, Afolabi. Good luck this evening. Okay.